I'm sure you can, but don't take my word for it. Just ask this talking dog who can only say I love you. Roll the clip. One more time, talking dog.
For a free rate quote, visit geico.com to see how much you could save. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
PM show nationwide, coast to coast on CRN Digital Talk Radio. I'm Michael Horn, along with the great Fred Dreyer here with us. And, as we mentioned your student at Talk Radio, talked about the great Arthur Godfrey, Fred. And, when I was a kid, he had a TV show. But in the days of early radio at that time, those were kind of the first real talk radio shows. I mean, they played some music and things, and they had like a magazine format. But the greats, the guys that really did well in the, quote, ratings or whatever they were of the day, were the guys that could communicate and just talk about a topic and get people to listen and kind of open people's eyes up to issues.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the art and craft, I think, of conversation. And as great as the explosion in the last 25 years, I guess it started in '88 when Rush Limbaugh came on, and God bless him, he's terrific. He's a master, and everybody else who's followed. But the model of social discord, the conversation now that people get to have, the alternative, information highway, other than newspapers and television shows, but listening to the radio and getting information has exploded, and the interesting thing was it's been interactive. All these shows, all the great talk shows, have moments where they take callers,
right,
and they interact with their fan base, and I understand all that. But to me, what's aggravating about it is that it can interrupt and change a conversation. It's soundbite radio.
It has become.
It's soundbite
media these days.
But it's USA Today print soundbite, audio soundbite now that these guys are the hosts of, and you don't have a follow through of a conversation, a subject matter that lasts maybe 25, 30 minutes, a half hour, maybe even an hour. So oftentimes I'll be listening to these shows, and I try to listen to everything. Even Air America, I tried to listen to it, but it became so inane and so foolish that you couldn't do it because it was such an agenda-driven show. But I try to listen hard to see what the conversation is. I don't want to be really sold anything. I don't want to have someone try to craft a politic for me.
Right.
I don't want anybody to try to engineer me turning my thinking capacity over to a politic, whether it's left, right, or anything in between.
Right.
So what you try to do is you try to find a place where you can go to and feel at home and listen to a conversation and not be interrupted by call-in people who have varying degrees of opinions, most of which I don't want to hear, unfortunately.
So you don't want to hear opinions. You want to share ideas. You want to hear ideas.
I don't want to hear them because I'm above them. I don't want it to appear that way. But most of the conversations, most of the people who call in, want to take part and hear their voices. And but my complaint is not so much in the actual content of what the callers are talking about, but it distracts and takes away from the conversation at hand. Case in point, Ann Coulter, who I sometimes like, and I have a great deal of respect for her, certainly, but she'll come in and Sean Hannity will ask her questions about the main topics of the day, whether it's the politics, whether it's liberals or the latest book and whatever.
Right.
And he'll start his questioning out and start to ask her and lead her towards building a nice conversation that I want to listen to. And then they'll say, well, let's take Jim on a car phone on the Long Island Expressway, and then they'll come in and say, I saw that television show you did, Sean, and and it'll completely pull you out of.
Throw you into the cornfield.
It'll throw you out of the swing of things. And the guy's so stupid, and Sean's a gentleman, and he'll carry the guy through the show a little bit longer than he should, and I'll turn the show off. And I've done it.
You will personally turn it off.
I've turned the radio off because I do not. I like the show, I like her, but I know they're never going to come back to that topic, and I also know that they're going to now service and steer the show towards call-in to the call-in voter, to the call-in audience, and I don't want to listen to it.
You like the conversation, and a lot of people will say to you, and a lot of the great radio programmers will say that great talk radio is really storytelling. Mm-hmm. There's one guy in particular that says, when I was a kid, I'd ride in the car with my dad, and I wondered how he could listen to this talk radio because I wanted to hear top 40 music. And he realized he was enjoying the stories of the songs of top 40 music. His dad was enjoying the stories that he was listening to being told on talk radio. So he realized they were pretty similar in what they were doing, just two different forms. One was listening to the stories through music. The other guy was listening to the stories developed with the guy talking to people like you and I are talking right now.
Yeah, and everybody has. And this is autobiographical of my opinion, and the things that I look at, certainly. I don't speak for anybody about myself. When I turn on talk radio, and I listened to Rush this morning, and I listened to Sean, and I listened to Mark Levin, and I think I respect their opinions. I like them. I'm tiring of their format.
Meaning what?
Just what I said. I'm tired of making a statement, an opening statement, go to commercial, come back, take some phone calls. I'm tired of it. I believe that most of the people, you get maybe one or two good phone calls out of 10, maybe 10, 20%, 15% of your phone calls are stimulating that stick to the topic and drive that conversation further where he stays with the subject matter. Often, more times than not, that's not the case, and I don't, at this point in time, of what I believe talk radio is and what it should be about, is cracking open ideas and ideology and explaining it and pushing it around, and so the viewer can make a decision on maybe this information will change how he or she thinks.
So it's sharing of ideas, it's sharing of stories, it's sharing of information, not necessarily with a political agenda to it, and not necessarily being interrupted by phone calls. And that all being said, what kind of ideas do you hear that stimulate you, that you say, hey, I hear this is a good idea, and we should kind of hash this out? What comes to mind in that area?
Well, look, without being self-serving, the things I look at in the conversation today, politically, that's the subject we're talking about, is we've lost the art form and the consideration in the everyday milieu of information and exchanging of ideas and problem solving. We've lost the ability to articulate the problems of why.
So we don't talk about the problems, we don't talk about why. We just complain a lot.
It's an emotional expurgation.
Seems to be a lot of emotion. Somebody's upset about potholes. They don't talk about how to fix the potholes.
And why they're there.
Why they're there, what they do in other cities to do it, what it might be. It's just a complaint line.
Yeah, and what you wind up getting is the sameness. You fall into the patterns of sameness, and it's a bore.
So we'll try to not be boring. We come back and we'll fall into some patterns, maybe solving some problems. PM show, Fred Dryer, Michael Horn, CRN.